Beauty.
Do you have a song for us?
No, I'm just humming the Avengers theme still.
Well, that's good enough. That's a good
Boom,
starter.
boom, 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 boom. I
Okay.
have Iron Man behind me. See?
Oh,
Can you
sweet.
see it? It's 1/6
Yes,
Iron
hanging
Man.
on your
Oh,
home pod there. Yeah.
right, I'll stop interrupting you now.
Let's get it started. Today is April 3rd, 2019. Today we're going to be talking about anything we want to because we do what we want. This is the iMore show. Today is not April 3rd. Let's start that
What is
one more
it? I
time.
thought. Oh no, it's May 3rd already. God damn it!
Yep. I'm glad I noticed that. I would have totally forgot. One more time. Hi,
Yes.
everybody.
Don't forget to introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Today is May 3rd, 2019. We're going to be talking about all things Apple and anything we want at all because we are cool like that. I'm Lori Gill, and you're listening to The iMore Show. My one and only guest today is the most wonderful, enigmatic person I've ever spoken to about Apple products. Renee Ricci, how are you doing?
Good, good. I heard a rumor that that Georgia and Micah have gotten a car and are heading towards the Grand Canyon Thelma and Louise style. Do the kids know what Thelma and Louise are still? Do I have to give them something?
You might have to. I'm not sure that's actually a known reference anymore. That movie is as great as it is. I don't think it's test time. I don't think the young people are watching it.
Well, Micah and Georgia have got a car and they've got some sort of crazy mission in mind, and they're going to drive off the Grand Canyon with it. That's my understanding.
So basically, what it comes down to is all this fighting. They've actually decided that they are meant to be together until the end
Yes.
of time. And so we have to just kind of watch them ride off into the sunset together.
Yes, it's like Bonnie and Clyde, like what's it, the Sunset Kid? All these things that no one's going to know that I'm referencing. It's so sad.
It is.
Where are our modern mythos to replace those? Like Rocket and Groot. Here we go.
Yeah. So I think it's important that we need to bring this up first of all. Peter Mayhew passed away yesterday. Today we're recording on May 3rd, so he passed away yesterday, May 2nd. So I just wanted to touch on that for a minute. I know that we're the iMore show, not the Star Wars show, but he was an important person to the Star Wars universe. And anybody who has been to Star Wars conventions and even a lot of comic book conventions will have seen him and maybe even met him. And from my personal experience, I did get to see him at every Star Wars convention I went to and many of the comic book conventions I went to. And I got to meet him. He came to the California State Fair a couple of years ago, and I went and finally got to actually meet him in person. And he really is a wonderful guy. All the things they say on him about Twitter, obviously, I'd only spoken to him the one time, but he's sweet and friendly and kind. He has kind eyes and a big booming voice. And the first time I saw him in real life, I immediately connected with him because he actually reminds me of my uncle. I have this uncle who's tall and has this big booming voice. And I have this very strong memory of, as a child, a very young child. I don't even remember, that might have been the first time I had met him. He comes in the room and he's this giant of a man, a big beard and everything. And he's kind of like booming and loud. And I remember being scared of him. And then he lifts me up in the air and holds me over his head. And I'm just like, oh, this guy's great. I love this guy. This was my uncle.
Not Chewbacca,
my
right?
uncle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This is my uncle when I was a kid. And so when I met Peter Mayhew, and I just got the same sense about him, that look in his eyes, that smile that he had. I just immediately thought back to that moment when I was a child, when I was sort of afraid of my own uncle, and then realized that he was this wonderful, lovable guy. And I really think Peter Mayhew kind of exudes that sort of thing. So he's going to be missed. The next convention I go to that I would have expected him to be at, it's going to be kind of sad to not see him there. So
yeah, this might sound weird, but this was I can't say the first, but this was one of the celebrity deaths that hit me the hardest. And I think it's because Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw. And that universe was everything to my childhood. And to think of Chewie not being in it anymore was just, reckoning. Like, just, it was
exactly.
hard.
Yeah, and even when Carrie Fisher passed away, when Carrie Fisher passed away, it was so stunning to me that I actually
Yeah.
couldn't even talk about it. But when yesterday when I read that Peter Mayhew had passed away, I just immediately kind of like had my little cry moment because he is such an important person to the Star Wars universe, and
And he
just
was
like
never
you.
in the news the way that a lot of other celebrities became celebrities to us because they were in the news and you saw their trials or tribulations in other movies. But he was like, I know he was Peter Mayhew, but he was just so Chewbacca.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to be missed.
Yes.
And on a slightly lighter note, tomorrow is also Star Wars Day. So
May the
it's
fourth be with you, Lori.
May the fourth be with you. It's a great day. It's unfortunate that he passed away, but tomorrow is going to be a great day to celebrate Chewbacca and Peter Mayhew. We were all going to celebrate Star Wars anyway, but this will be like a great way to kind of have a memorial for him. So I'm very excited about all the things that are going to happen with Star Wars Day tomorrow. Are you doing anything special?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I was at the Lego store and they have the big 25th anniversary of Lego Star Wars up and they have Tantive 4 and they have just all the sets out and I might just build something. I don't know, grab my god kids, build something. We'll see.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
I usually watch all the movies, but there's too many now, so I'll probably just watch the three movies.
So in the years past, as long as I've heard of the Star Wars Day, they were just calling it May the Fourth Day back then. Um, I decided that my annual thing would be that I would try to watch all of the major Star Wars movies from beginning to end. I've never successfully
The
even watched
Skywalker
6
saga.
of them. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because they take, and I start early in the morning. I'll start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I will watch until I fall asleep at night, and I actually can't get
Wow.
through them all. But
I
this year
thought
I
you were going to say
decided.
you made your own lightsaber. Like every year you go into the cave, you get the crystal, and you build that
Well,
lightsaber for the year.
I have a box of kyber crystals in my closet right now. I don't have to go anywhere. But
Awesome.
this year I decided to switch it up a little, and I'm going to watch all of the non-Skywalker saga stuff, like the
The
Christmas
Wookiee
special,
Christmas, yeah.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
Ewok specials, the cartoons, all of those things that are just like the side canon stuff. I'm gonna annihilate all of those this year
Nice.
instead. Trying to, there's some that like I won't be able to get through all of Star Wars Rebels. There's a lot that I won't be able to get through.
Yeah.
This is also the first time in years that that Star Wars Day fell on a weekend. I'm usually working all day, so I just have
Yeah.
movies on in the background. So tomorrow's going to be really great because I'll be able to just sit and focus and watch and just kind of super absorb it all. I don't have any great recipes. I tried blue milk one time, and it really was just more like purple milk. So I don't have any fun recipe ideas coming up, but I'm sure
Not
I'll do
Yoda
something.
stew? You don't make the Yoda stew?
I haven't. I might
Okay.
tomorrow. I might just get a hair up my butt and go for it. So that's my fun for tomorrow. I'm excited about Star
Oh,
Wars Day. It's
awesome.
always a fun fan day, and we have a convention that happens every year locally. They call it the Intergalactic Space Convention, I think. And the first year they did it, they called it a Star Wars convention, but I don't think they were allowed to do that, so they had to change the name of it. And they don't even hold it on the 4th anymore. So this year it's on the 5th. So I'll be going to that on Sunday too to just kind of really soak in the sci-fi geekness of it all.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think we have a bunch of stuff going up on iMore and Techno Buffalo and all the other sites
Yes.
that people, if you're looking for something,
Yeah. In fact,
I was going to ask, did Carly make like little cookie cutouts in the shape of Jawas for everybody to?
I sure hope so. She better be sending me one. iMore is going to have some great stuff, but to be totally honest, go to Techno Buffalo. They're
Yeah.
going to crush it when it comes to like the cool toys and things that you can buy on Star Wars Day. I can't wait to see all the stuff they put up. And there's going to be great sales.
People know. Did we ever talk about like Techno Buffalo is part of the Mobile Nations family now? So like we're all writing and doing fun stuff over there. I
Yes.
got to do my 5 things missing from Avengers Endgame post on Techno Buffalo.
Oh, ooh, I'm not reading
Yeah.
that because I've
No,
decided
don't.
that. Yeah, I've decided that I can't read anything on Techno Buffalo related to Endgame because there are
Or Game of
spoilers.
Thrones, because you're behind on Endgame. I'm behind on Game of Thrones, and neither of us can read that site right now.
Yeah, we got to avoid it because they tell you ahead of time in the title that they're spoilers. So you can go to the website and read stuff and not accidentally read a headline that reveals something. But you
Like
definitely got to watch.
Daenerys' dragon ate Captain America or something. I don't want to know.
That's the crossover everybody
Well,
says.
everyone was in the movie, right? So I gotta believe Daenerys had something to do with it. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, right? Because she's going to be in one of the future movies, right?
Is she? I forgot about that. I
Oh,
know
no, no,
Angelina
no. I'm
Jolie.
sorry.
Angelina
It was,
Jolie is rumored.
yeah. And I was actually thinking of, oh, it's going to drive me crazy that I don't remember her real name, but the woman that plays Sansa is
Oh,
going
but
to
she's Dark
be.
Phoenix. She's been Phoenix, Jean Grey for a while in the X-Men. Do we call that Marvel? I don't. It's like, did you ever watch the Deadpool Christmas? I know we're totally off topic now, but I feel like if John Gruber can do it, we can do it. Did you
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
watch the Deadpool Christmas movie for quote unquote kids when he kidnaps Fred Savage?
I didn't watch it. You told me about it, but I didn't watch it.
It's worth YouTubing, but there's one scene where Fred Savage goes, "I only like the Marvel movies," and Deadpool says, "We're Marvel." He goes, "Yeah, but you're Marvel made by Fox." That's sort of like the Beatles arranged by Nickelback.
Oh, oh. Ouch.
Yeah. So like yeah, she's so yeah, so she is Jean Grey, who's one of my favorite characters, but I have not I don't know how Dark Phoenix. The first time they did the Dark Phoenix story, Brett Ratner totally screwed it up. So we'll see what they do this time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you gotta figure that out. You never know though. There's sometimes when somebody ruins a franchise for you, but with a bad movie, and then somebody else comes along and just like fixes that
Joel
and makes it better.
Schumacher and Christopher Nolan, good examples.
Yeah, yeah. Did you watch? We're so off subject right now,
I
but I
know.
gotta bring it up. Did you watch the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer?
I didn't. I keep meaning to, and then I keep seeing the outrage. I end up reading the outrage and never getting around to watching the trailer.
So I was on Clockwise earlier this week, and one and the bonus question that Micah asked was who would win in a fight, Pikachu or Sonic the Hedgehog? And he linked to the trailer on YouTube. And I went and clicked on it, not knowing exactly what I was about to see because I hadn't seen it yet. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
up yet. And my first thought was, oh, this has got to be an April Fool's joke, right? And I saw the release date of it. And no, this was not an April Fool's joke. This was real, that they're making a Sonic the Hedgehog live action / CG
Yeah.
movie like Detective
Detective
Pikachu.
Pikachu, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many things that seem awkward about it, not just the fact that Sonic is kind of weird
Well,
looking.
people are upset about the Pokemon in Pokemon Detective Pikachu as well because they're all furry and kind of a little bit uncanny, like half animal, half cartoon, and I'm not sure either really works.
I think the difference between Detective Pikachu and this particular version of Sonic the Hedgehog, though, is that they gave this Sonic character a couple of I wouldn't call them realistic looking aspects, but like he's got these sort of long legs, which makes sense for a runner.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like a cute character, whereas
It doesn't look like Sonic.
well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what kind of idea or art you're looking at. I don't think he looks like the original Sonics, but I get where they were getting that vision from. So it's not that so much as it's that I don't think Sonic translates to live action as well as Pikachu does, believe it or not, because I didn't think Pikachu would translate to live action, but it turns out
But
he's
Ryan
pretty
Reynolds'
good.
voice is so good in that role.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think the difference is that the characters, the Pokemon characters in Detective Pikachu are cuter. Even if they do kind of like send you into a little bit of an uncanny valley, it's not as bad as what they did with Sonic, which they're
I'm
saying they're
looking at it
going
right
to
now.
redo.
Yeah, they're going to redo it, which is weird.
I think that was the right thing, especially because this is going to be the knockoff copycat of Detective Pikachu. And if you're
Yeah.
going to come in onto the scene and say we're doing the exact same thing but with a different character, it better be better than the first one that pops up. And if right out of the gate their first teaser trailer is something upsetting to everyone, it's going to bomb. So I think they were smart to decide to change that as soon as possible, even
Are
if
they going
it
to
is
change Jim Carrey's
upsetting.
mustache as well?
Actually, I think that Jim Carrey's character looks pretty good. He
Yeah,
kind of
he
fits
does.
that mold pretty well. So I think it really is just the Sonic weird long-legged thing that just
Yeah.
long leg, long arm, and human teeth. I don't know. It doesn't look quite as good. So I think they need to like squeeze him down a little, make him
Yes.
shorter.
Make him our Sonic again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, enough talk about all of the things we love outside of Apple. Let's talk about Apple and how much we love
Okay. Or
it.
hate it, depending on what they're doing on any given day.
So you and I talked before the show about what we were going to talk about, and one thing you mentioned was how much I love to talk about right to repair.
Yeah,
And I
and there's been
sent
big
you a
news this
link.
week.
I'm not sure if you had read it. This happened
Yes.
earlier in the week on, I think it was the
There's
30th.
two almost identical stories, one in California and one in Ontario, and they happened in the same week, which is bizarre.
Right. So it turns out that Apple is in talks with some groups of people that they're trying to say that it's a bad idea to allow people to repair, according to the article that we found on Motherboard, which
Yeah.
we'll link in the show notes. That Apple is kind of suggesting that it's dangerous to allow people to repair their iPhones because they might be injured. They might get injured trying
Could
to
like
repair
puncture the
themselves.
lithium ion battery and have like catastrophic failure or something.
And you know what? They're right. Yeah, if you puncture your battery, you could have, burn your skin, burn your face, burn your stuff. So yeah, that is actually like a legitimate thing to be worried about. And then you actually followed. By the time I started watching the Senate hearing in Ontario, Canada,
Ontario, yeah.
I had only caught the last end of it. So how much of it did you see, and what kind of information did you hear
So
about with that?
just to step back for a second, what's so interesting about this is that like Apple's involved in it. I think there's like 18 companies. Apple looks like it's got their own lobbyists. There's a bunch of organizations that represent like Samsung and the other companies, and they all have different objections. Like I think Apple took apart an iPhone in front of them to show how dangerous it was. And Kyle Wyans from iFixit said, yeah, there's a chance of doing this, but it's a really, really small chance. And like I think another company said that, but if you give everybody the information, they'll be able to hack it so much more easily. And other people are like, oh, there's security and privacy concerns. So like they had this wide swath of, I'm gonna call it like fuddy kind of stuff, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt sort of spreading stuff. And it happened the same they were lobbying the people in the California legislature, but also we have this wacky government in Ontario right now that's so like I was joking with Georgia when we were watching this that watch Ontario is going to approve right to repair but say it has to be run by the government because everything is run by the government, like booze and lotteries and everything, and then they're going to defund it.
So then
that would be the Ontario solution.
Everyone will get the right to repair, but no one will literally be able to do that.
Yeah, you'll go there and there'll be like one guy with a sticker and goes, I got no money.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, but it was sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, like to me, and we've talked about this a lot. To me, it's like Apple's on the absolute wrong side of this. What they should be doing, if they want to lobby, is they should lobby for safety for workers. Because like if there is the off chance someone's going to injure themselves, just make. I had this conversation to back up from it. I had this conversation with a really, really famous repair person, one of the people on YouTube a lot, and they said to me, you shouldn't worry about privacy if you give me your device because you don't worry about your private parts when you go to the doctor. And I'm like, wait a minute, back up. The doctor has gone to many, many years of accredited medical school, had to pass board and licensing exams, has specific malpractice insurance, and is legally and ethically and professionally liable under various associations and criminal statutes. So I don't want to play the doctor card with this because then you'd be required to go, like if you want to look at my pictures, you'd be required to go get all that stuff. But I think there is value in having a set of standards so that people don't have to worry about the quality of the parts. Like there's consumer protection on the quality of parts that they use. Like they have to have a written privacy policy that everybody can look at. That we have to know their workers are taken care of. Like safety is paramount, and just a bunch of little things that I think should be part of any right to repair legislation. And Apple, the company that cares about the environment and sustainability and length of use and is doing all these things to keep our devices going longer and recycle them when they can't, I think they should be on that side of the issue, and this should be an important part of their overall practice.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to see the way right now it's all kind of unfolding. The idea of right to repair has been around for a really long time, but it's only finally coming to like a more prominent thing in our lives where people are talking about it more, and legislation is coming up with it. And you do kind of get into this weird issue of when should government step in, and I don't think that, I think ideally nobody steps in. It's just that maybe the corporations that are making these devices, not just Apple, but everybody, Samsung and everybody that are making these devices, that they just themselves offer up tools and ways that you can repair your devices without having to go to pay somebody a bunch of money to do it for you. It's such I agree a lot with some of these things that Apple is talking about, is that, like, for example, the dangers of opening up your own phone and how you could accidentally injure yourself. But then you're getting into this kind of like, well, Apple is not my babysitter. Apple is
And
not
that happens
my
with a
parent.
car, right? Like you can hurt yourself fixing a car.
I always go to the example of working on your own car's engine, which is that it's dangerous to do it yourself if you don't know what you're doing. There are things within a car's engine that could harm you. If you do it wrong, your car could break completely and even possibly crash into somebody else and injure them. But we're allowed to work on our cars without any kind of repercussions. It's still our car, and we have the choice to do what we want with it.
Yeah, if you crash, then we throw you in jail.
Right. Yeah, sure. But when it comes to phones, the phone companies, the manufacturers are still trying to protect us, but more likely they're trying to protect their own internal workings and how they do things. And then you do kind of question, like, is it okay that they're keeping these things a secret from us? Apple is especially, and I think why they're also so prominent in this conversation is that Apple doesn't want us to know all of the little bits and bobs that are in their phones, because they don't want somebody to steal that, because they do this great design and they don't want some other company just making phones based on the stuff they see inside here as easily. So they want to kind of like protect without like a full-on manual that has every little part and where it's made and what the part number is and all that stuff. But I don't think that you need to do that. And I don't think that consumers are asking for that. Consumers are asking for very simple things like the ability to change your battery when it gets old, the ability to replace your screen if it cracks, the ability to, change the storage even if you wanted to upgrade storage after you've bought your phone. Nobody's trying to take apart the motherboard and, like steal all the little chips that are in there. It's just the ability to keep your phone lasting longer, which is something that Apple supports. They support the idea of keeping your phone for as long as possible, and then turning it in to a recycling plant when it's out of date. With that kind of idea of keeping the parts out of a landfill, and they do that successfully. And also, I'm sure that people are going to tweet at me or send me emails about how Apple doesn't want you to keep your phone as long as possible. And I'm going to argue against that they do things. They keep the operating system available to phones much longer than any other company does for operating systems. So that to me is clear evidence that they're trying to make it possible for your phone to last as long as it possibly can. So you can at me on that. We'll fight.
Well, I mean, they took some of their top engineers and had them spend an entire year working on performance improvements for older iPhones, which is not something you do if you want, people not to use those older iPhones.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really helpful for is that there are some things by virtue of its scale, and I'll have a video up on this at some point, but there's some things by virtue of the scale. Like I can't repair anything. I'm totally useless. So I'm happy to take my thing into an Apple store and get it fixed. But there's some things by virtue of its scale that Apple's real good at fixing. You just take it in, they'll fix it for you in 2 seconds, give it back to you, and you can go. A lot of very simple things they can do very efficiently, but they don't even do things like there was that whole brouhaha about data recovery. But for Apple, like there's very few people who do that. You can't scale that. Like the amount of training you need for those people is extreme, and there's all sorts of other things with it. And that's something that independent repair shops or specialty shops can really do. And if you offload that stuff, like that repair guy can't service 100 million phones. Like it's ridiculous. A lot of times they go, Apple should let it. Dude, you cannot handle 100 million phones in a year. You just can't. But you can, if Apple is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, they can do the things that they're really good at. And then you have the best of both worlds. And I think that's the side Apple should be on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're on agreement here. Where's Georgia? She's
hiding.
Fight. So yeah, that's the right to repair issue. I think what we're going to do right now is go into to tell you about one of our sponsors, and this is going to be my first time doing a sponsor talk that I've had. I think I did it one other time, and I think I failed at it then.
I can't wait.
So we're going to do this, everybody. Let's go. Okay. Let me tell you about Wix. Wix is a service that. Okay. I'm going to do this one afterward.
Okay.
I need
I was
some
gonna
time.
say we can fix anything
Yeah.
in the edit, but you can also do it later
I'll do it later when I can kind of focus on it a little bit more. So
with beverages.
we'll throw that ad in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on. I think the other topic that I wanted to talk about today that we can kind of just have fun with is WWC is a month away now, like almost exactly a month away now. Yeah,
You know, it is a
exactly
month from
away.
today.
From today, May
Good
3rd.
morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. We want to talk to you about iOS 13 and macOS 10.15 and watchOS. Is it watchOS 6 this year? I think so.
Yep, and tvOS 13.
They
And
never talk about tvOS. Like Eddie
they
comes
never
out for a
do.
second in a fancy shirt and says, "Hey, look, the TV app," and then leaves.
But you know, this time I bet you they're going to talk about not tvOS 13, but tvOS 12.3, because that's when the TV app is getting its major update to include the different ways that you can subscribe to cable channels. So
here's my quandary right now. I have not watched the season of Game of Thrones yet and the reason why is because I can subscribe to it through Crave, which is like Hulu in Canada. And they have a bunch of add-ons. Like you can get Crave plus HBO and movies and Crave plus a bunch of other stuff. But I think I'll be able to do, I'm not sure about Canada is the only thing. I think I'll be able to do that through Apple TV Plus channels. I'll be able to subscribe to HBO. And I'd much rather have it managed, because so this is my big dream for Apple TV Plus. It's that yes, they don't have the content Netflix has, but I like the interface. I just want to go to one place and manage all my subscriptions. I want Game of Thrones is over, bye-bye. This new show is coming out, yes, please. This other thing is coming, yes. Oh, I want all the Marvel stuff. Oh, like, you know, I just want to be able to add and remove services easily all from one place. I don't have to remember every website or every app or all those things. And if they can just do that for me, I'd much rather do it there, but I don't know how long it'll take. And so I'm kind of buckling and leaning towards just diving into Crave in the meantime.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I were you, Renee, I would hold off just a little bit longer. And anybody else who's wondering, it's almost definitely coming in, because I think 12.3 is already in like late beta stages. So it's probably coming within the month. So hold out a little bit longer.
I think they said this month. Didn't they say this month back in March?
They said in the spring. So they didn't give us an exact date, but I think we knew.
It feels like the end of spring to me. Like if you're in June, it feels like summer.
Maybe it's, or maybe they did say that it was in the summer, but I think they said the end of spring. But so for me, I think I'm still a little bit confused on what I'm supposed to expect from the new changes to the TV app. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about TV Plus. We're not talking about the additional subscription for exclusive content. We're talking about just the TV app getting an update that will allow you to subscribe to channels directly from the TV app and watch content directly from the TV app. Right now, the TV app, it's kind of like an aggregator for all of the services that you subscribe to. Not all of them, because some of them don't participate in it. But interestingly, even the ones that you don't participate in, it'll show up in your upcoming list, and then it just kind of like redirects you to that app instead of redirecting you directly to the episode. So it's still pretty good when it comes to just kind of keeping you abreast of what you're watching.
The only problem I have with this all right now is that you have the base tvOS operating system, which is go to an app, press the button, go to a show, watch the show. Then you have these two other layers. You have the TV app where you see content from other apps, and you have Siri when you ask it for other things. And between all of those, it just loses the path. So if I'm watching something and the TV app says play it, and then I accidentally press, like, God help me if I ever press the home button or the menu button by accident, like there's no clear path back because I wasn't in the interface. I was in the menu, the TV app. Or if I ask Siri for something and accidentally leave it, or I have to leave it, there's no like persistent Siri for me to go back and say, keep watching that, because TV app thinks I was watching what was last watching there, and each app thinks I was watching. And it's just, it's like there needs some sort of sanity to be forced upon all this.
And maybe that's what the TV app is hoping to do, is instead of it aggregating the content, it sounds like what it's going to do is actually put those apps inside of it, so that, or not the apps inside of it, but like the channels inside of it, so
Yeah.
that what I'm imagining is I also have Fire TV, and for Fire TV, you open it up and there's all of your channels, and it's like an app, but you kind of click through it as if it were sort of just already there in your sort of feed. And I'm thinking that the TV app might do something similar to that, where you go into the TV app and all of your HBO, Showtime, Hulu, Netflix. Obviously, a lot of these aren't, or some of these aren't going to be participating in the within TV app stuff. But then when you're in there, then you'll see, the Apple TV app might, after you've already subscribed or signed in within the TV app, then Apple will start suggesting to you something like, here's this TV show that you want to see, or you can even search for that TV show. And instead of what you're saying specifically is that you get lost in the pathway to what you're trying to watch, that wouldn't happen. It would still be there for you because you're not interfacing with it outside of the app itself.
Yeah.
You're interfacing within the TV app, which will keep that path going. So
I'm
hopefully
cautiously optimistic, but this is a hard business. Like we've seen, like Netflix wants no part of this, and other people want to own their content, and it's just no one is working. Maybe Apple is a little bit, but none of the content providers are working towards a good experience for the customer still. And I think that's
it's still very hard. And what I'm definitely learning, just from following the way Apple is doing things with TV and the way other streaming services are doing things with TV. There's so much more involved. It's not just with music. It was so easy for companies like Spotify and Apple and all of these others to just get these like packaged contracts with these companies that provided the music, and then they could provide that to us, so we could listen to all kinds of music from all different genres, from all different distributors. But when it comes to TV and movies, there's so many things that affect your ability as the person trying to provide the content to us. There's so much for them, so many hoops for them to jump through to try to get all of that content. Because you could even have, something. This isn't something I've read. This doesn't exist. But if HBO, let's say, was participating with Apple, but they said, but we're not going to include Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing that starts to come up when especially for people who are trying to cut the cord and want to continue to watch live sports. It's very difficult to find services that provide the free sport or the live sports aspect of it. And so a lot of people stick with cable television, and it's because of these contracts that exist that make it so that you can't package those deals the way you want to. So even as Apple TV and the TV app and Apple, the company, trying to provide a better experience, I think in a lot of ways, it's not their fault. They just can't, make these contracts work with these other companies that are holding out and don't want to share their content. I do think, though, that Movies Anywhere, have you used Movies Anywhere yet?
No, I don't. I never got into the shenanigans that I thought was like, what do they call it? Ultraviolet. So I never got into buying things from separate places. So I never had to put it all together.
Yeah. So I did. I had, the promo codes when I buy a Blu-ray or DVD from something, that would go to Ultraviolet, and then others that would go to Apple TV and different one. And I buy movies from Amazon, and they were always in separate places. I could watch them all on Apple TV in their own separate apps. But Movies Anywhere means that when I open iTunes, it's there on my computer. All of the movies that I bought on Amazon, all of the download codes that I added to Ultraviolet, all of the movies that I bought on iTunes, they're all in the same place. When I go to my Fire TV, all of those movies, the same movies, they're all in one place. I don't have to go find the app. On my Apple TV, they're all in the same place. So that is a great way. And I don't know how to do that. But if there was a way that television could also participate in that, and again, same problem. There are certain distributors that aren't participating with Movies Anywhere, that you can't get your movies added to the Movies Anywhere thing. But it's certainly like a great example of like the potential that could happen if these distributors could work together with the hardware manufacturers that are trying to present a better experience. Like that could be a really great thing if we could do something like that.
Totally. Oh, I'm excited, Lori Gill.
Yeah, so that's TV. That's coming up. iOS 13.
Yep.
What's
Lucky number 13.
Yeah, right? Do you think they're going to just skip 13 and call it iOS 14, or they're just going
I
to
would
change
say no, but they skipped iPhone 9, and that's like all shades of dodgy.
Yeah.
So you never know. I think like I would lean into it. Um, I would just own it. I mean, I don't know why not. They had iOS 4, and that means death in like half the cultures in the
Yes,
world.
so
So
maybe they're not even going to worry about the I guess now that I think about it, if they skipped 13, there'd be such a hubbub about Apple being a bunch of uh superstitious. Man, that's a hard word to use. That Apple is superstitious and won't use 13, and what a
I
big deal
think they
that
should
is.
go to names. Like I like the idea of like OS 10 Mojave, and I
Mhm.
love that Google has like not Raspberry Pi. That'd be too cool. We're not there yet. But I love that they have like Pi and all the different dessert Kit Kat, all those different dessert names. I'd love iOS to have a name. Like just call it Yukon. What's the big deal? It just sounds cool. It sounds badass.
Yeah, I love the idea too. In fact, with with Mac OS, it's actually really easy to distinguish the differences between software or yeah, between the software systems because they give you these very easy to remember names,
Yeah.
especially because Mac OS isn't so iOS is like, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Mac OS is like 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. Like
They
they
don't even need it because they're all 10. Just call it like 15. You don't have to have 10.15. I'm
right.
not in kindergarten anymore, Apple.
But when they give you the a name, when they name it, if it's so much easier for my brain to kind of like understand the separation between the two. Like, oh, Safari had these features, and then
Yeah.
High Sierra had these features, or sorry, Sierra and High Sierra, and then Mac OS Mojave. That you can kind of name them and then identify the features that came out with them a lot easier than trying to remember the numbers. I don't know. I like naming things, and I think it would be really fun to see Apple go that way. Have you heard any musings or rumors that that was coming? Because I know we've heard the rumor that they're changing the name of the iPhone to just iPhone 2019. So have you heard anything about iOS having a name?
No, I mean, like they've been messing around with the internal code names. Like for a long time, they were all ski hills. And then last year they had that whole liberty and freedom and peace, and everything was named after some I don't know, subversive desire to restore the newsroom style West Wing democracies of old. But like
Yeah.
this year, all we've heard is Yukon, because the Mac version is not in the build, so you don't see it as easily. But so I don't know, is that Yukon the territory in Canada? Is that Yukon potatoes? Like is it Mac OS russet? And I don't know. Like I don't know what they're. But I love those names.
Mhm.
Like Mac OS was wines for a long time, and then it was apples for a while, like Gala, and it
Mhm.
just that kind of stuff to me is cool because it doesn't hurt anything. It's kind of cool. I love the whole spy sort of code name superhero vibe. And
Mhm.
I would just love like if they came on stage and announced iOS Yukon, I'd be all woohoo.
Yeah. If they were going to switch over,
iOS Rancho Cucamonga,
no, just no.
iOS Death Valley.
If they were going to switch over from a numbering system, and this was their very first year that they were going to do that, what name would you think would be perfect for iOS?
Oh, I don't think you can do like so. What I liked so much about when they switched the names from the big cats to the California landmarks
Mhm.
is that when you name the category, it takes the pressure off the initial one. Like I forget, it was the beach, right? It was what was the first Mac OS? The I'm blanking on the name, but it was the
The first Mac OS.
that after the big cats.
That was Sierra.
No, there was one that was a beach that was right.
Oh,
It's gonna bother me now. I
yeah.
remember the watery. Anyways, so like, and then that Sierra and High Sierra, it takes a lot of the pressure off. So like, otherwise you just start sweating too much about like what's the perfect first name. But if you pick a theme, you just pick something from that theme, and then you can keep going.
So, what theme do you think the first iPhone?
Mavericks, that was it. Mavericks.
Mavericks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with Canadian provinces, but that doesn't take you very far. So they can't really stick with those. I don't know. That's a super good question. Desserts was real clever. I would go with like
Yeah.
Star Wars planets, but they don't have the rights to them.
Yeah, they've got to stick with things that are pretty that aren't going to get them in trouble for copyright infringement for sure. I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'm thinking it should be animals that exist in the mountains of no, because they already did that with Mac OS. So
Yeah.
yeah, bugs, different types of
Yeah.
bugs.
No, you don't want bugs near your software,
No,
Lori.
no, you're right. That wouldn't work either. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. This sounds like a lot of fun to
They
kind of.
could license it like Google did with KitKat and have like iOS Mickey, iOS the Batman.
Oh, if they use Disney characters, iOS, and each one of them, the first one obviously would be Mickey because
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse would be the first. But if they could license from Disney and each year it would be a different Disney character, now that would be fun.
Yeah. But I would stick to like cool sounding. Let Phil Schiller name him after famous race cars. That'd be fine with me.
Yeah,
iOS Ferrari.
yeah,
iOS.
that makes the most sense.
iOS Stinger.
Yeah, using
This is-
something speedy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. So what kind of we've got? So we talked a little. Well, actually, we haven't talked about the rumored features coming to iOS, and I know we're a little bit early on that, but we can talk about whatever we want.
There's rumors. I mean, Guy Rambo just keeps spoiling everything.
I
He told
know.
me how. I think he told me how TV shows that haven't even come out yet are going to end.
He's such a spoiler. So
I got to spend the weekend with him. Sorry, I should have mentioned I was at NS North last weekend with the 1Password guys and Guy Rambo and Luke, who makes Luke Van Dalen makes screens, and just a lot of really smart developers. It was a lot of fun. And Ken Kishinda, who did the keyboard for the iPhone, was there. That was a good time.
I read his book thanks to your recommendation.
Yeah, it's a good book. But yeah, I was there with Guy, and he had a lot of fun. And Ken tells really good stories. I always enjoy them.
Nice. That's great. And were there a lot of people in attendance for this thing?
Yeah, I mean, they had the hall. It was full. I don't know what their numbers were, and I'm terrible at numbers. Maybe 100 people. It was a lot. It was good.
That's great. And you all just
Yeah.
kind of just sat around and chatted about Apple stuff. And
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was hilarious. Like they were, Ken was telling the story about how the very first iPhone video game was really, they were trying to pick the size of the icons because it wasn't obvious to them how big the icons should be. I mean, like there were icons before, like on the Palm OS and even on the Newton, but they wanted to figure out the ideal size. Like if they were too small, people found it stressful because they had to hit exactly on the thing, but if they were too big, it wasted space. So they programmed a video game where they covered the screen with different size icons, and you would try to hit them, and they would record. They wouldn't tell you, but they would internally record your accuracy. And then they found out that, I forget what the size was, 42 pixels or something was the perfect size. That was the one where you could fit all the full grid, but people didn't miss them or stress about it. So it was just a cute story.
It's such a great way to win that. Again, that book by Ken Kishinda is so good for that exact reason, is like the early development of iOS and the ingenious ways that they came up with how they were going to design something. And that's a perfect example of it. If I remember that story, they were fretting over how big the icon should be for a very long time, and finally just decided that this game, and I think it was specifically because one of the developers was kind of just like testing, the different sizes and how they worked. And they realized that, well, if we just have a bunch of people tapping on these different size icons, we can get a gauge for the right size. And then, I mean, that's amazing to think of that. That's so ingenious to kind of think outside the box instead of just like.
Well, also, you remove opinion because everyone's going to have an opinion on it, but that's not fact. You want data.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And instead of drawing something out on a piece of paper and saying, well, what looks good, they actually beta tested everybody on something like this just by having them play a game to come up with the exact right number. So that's really impressive. Yeah. I like it.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Guy spoiled a lot of the iOS 13 stuff. And I think it's stuff that, well, we don't know. Like there could be a ton more stuff. This could be minor stuff. This stuff could be up on a slide and not being demoed. But I think some of it is super interesting. Some of it is like developer stuff. Some of it is front-facing stuff. One of the things that excites me the most is Intents. Like Siri Intents, originally before there were Siri shortcuts are great, but it's like, this is something I want to do. I'm going to assign a voice trigger to it, and then I have to say that exact thing to do that exact thing. And the way I talked about it in my video is like, it's like a day pass to Siri land. But Intents are like full citizenship. So I can say like, Skype Lori, send Lori a Skype, call Lori on Skype, Like there's all these different semantic ways that you can say what you want. You don't have to match the machine. The machine tries to understand you. And they're adding Siri intents for a bunch of stuff. Like some of it's really cool, like planes and trains and all that. But the two that are exciting are search, which I don't know how they're going to implement yet. But the one we've all been waiting for is media. So for example, you should be able to say, hey, Siri, play this on Netflix. Hey, Siri, bring up my Spotify this, you know, and I think that is going to make all, sorry. Oh, okay.
You
Siri's
forget.
yelling at me now. Yeah, but I think that is going to really help a lot of people. And also it's going to take like the crufty grumpiness off of the Spotify people and some others.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I hope this really does show up in the next iOS version, just because that it's definitely a missed feature that a lot of people do want to use, and it'll be nice to see that if it comes out. And it, you know, obviously these are all still in rumor phases. Even though this information can be gleaned from the coding, it doesn't mean it's coming in the next operating system. It just means
Well, one
that
that's weird is like Apple apparently is going to be taking Find My Friends and Find My Phone and mashing them into one Find My Stuff app. But then they're also going to sell, and maybe not a dub, but maybe like in September, a little tile-like thing so that you can put it on other things and find it all in your Apple stuff. But like, what does an Apple tile look like? Like, there's all these weird questions.
I know. And are they going to make their own version of it, or are they actually working with Tile? We won't know until it's official.
Like, does it work with all of them? Is there an API? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's another thing. Is it that Apple is going to make their own version of a Tile-like device, or are they going to open it up to companies like Tile to add that to their device? That's all very interesting stuff. I can't wait to see that. I actually use a Tile. I use Tile with my stuff, and so far I haven't lost anything, and that's great. But I do love one of the things about Tile that I love is that it's not just that you can ping the device or the Tile when something goes missing. It's also that if you lose something in the vicinity of anyone else that's using that also has Tile, they can help you find that stuff. So it'll ping them and tell you, like, you know, there's a missing phone. If you hear it, pick it up or something like that. And so then if I, let's say, go to the movies and I leave my phone at the movie theater, and somebody at the movies also has Tile and they hear it and they pick it up and they can get it back to me somehow, or take it to the front desk and I can go get it back. That's great, but that means that there has to be somebody that uses Tile, and there's not as many people that use Tile as there are people who just have an iPhone. So the ability to, if this were something that could be added into Apple's new Find My Stuff, the idea that you could ping a bunch of people's iPhones for the I've lost my iPhone, like that's a great way, because there's going to be way more people in the world that are sitting in the movies, and you know, I guess the movie theater is a bad example because nobody wants a notification going off on their phone when they're at the movies. But let's say a restaurant, and there could be, you know, any dozen number of people that could find that for you and take it up to the front desk so that you can go pick it up. I hope this really comes out, and I look forward to seeing how they're going to do that, because you almost don't need the hardware in order to just it's sort of like the way the way you use handoff when you want to send a picture. You can enable your phone to only share that stuff with contacts or open to anybody. So you could potentially, with this new Find My Stuff thing, you could set your phone to not allow that ping to come through from people you don't know. And that could be your way of sort of protecting yourself from just getting random pings from strangers. But then, you know, if you're at your friend's house when you lose your phone, or if you were at school when you lose your phone, your friends and your family that do have it turned on for you, you could narrow it down to just them using that to try to find your phone for you. So even with this idea that you could open it up to any stranger, you could also, if I were to use just what already exists in the world, you could also close that off to only allow it to be with your friends and family. Still a really great feature and a great way to do it. And you wouldn't need anything but your phone for it, which I think is really great.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. There's just he had I was just going through the list. There's just a ton of stuff there. I've done 2 videos on it already. I did the general stuff, and then I did the nerdy stuff as a separate video. And or just go look at his articles. I mean, there's so much. Like sometimes he'll just drop a sentence in there that's a whole big thing I could talk about for an hour.
Yeah. And he just keeps like finding new things and sharing them with us. And almost every day you're just so excited about, oh, wow, this looks cool. Oh, this is going to be neat. Oh, they're going to do that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
iOS
it's
is
gonna
going
be
to
so
be
much
big.
fun.
Yeah. WatchOS, have we heard anything great or exciting about anything coming to WatchOS?
I don't think. I mean, we've heard that the watch will be useful for more than it is currently with macOS. Like right now, it just does Apple. Well, yeah, it does unlock and Apple Pay, but it might start doing everything that Touch ID does, which would be super cool. But I haven't heard too much in terms of like you got to imagine there'll be new workouts. Like it's always like better communications. I'm not saying that like just to be like trite about it. It's really important, but they're doing the watch by itself is a restricted device, so they can't like there's only a limit to what they can do with it. But within those limits, at least for now, they're doing like more and better workouts, more and better communications, more and better health, and what do they call it? An intelligent guardian or whatever. Like like the health features, like the heart rate monitor and ECG and all those kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, hopefully we'll see just more and more improvements along those.
Yeah, I think last year with WatchOS 4, Apple perfected the Apple Watch. And I think now it's time for them to perfect WatchOS. Like they don't need to work on the hardware anymore. They did it. They finally did the perfect thing. So now I think definitely doing things like getting that battery usage down as low as you possibly can without having to actually put in a bigger battery so that Georgia can have her always on screen. I think they could do that. They've done that with iOS. They've proven that they can do things on the software side that reduce the battery usage so that they can, do other things that might take up a little bit more battery usage. So
They're just spending it differently. Like the first time they got battery usage down, they spent it on faster app launch. And the second time they spent it on better connectivity. So we'll see what their priority is for spending that battery currency this year.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that this year may be another incremental update, which will have things like, doing the little things better. But I'm thinking like by 2020, we'll probably see like a major overhaul of that operating system and it'll look a lot different. It'll work a lot different, have some big features. You know what I'd love to see? And this is happening across the board when it comes to fitness devices like Garmin and Fitbit. I would love to see some women's health features that show up actually in the health app. That wouldn't be an Apple Watch specific thing. That would be a health.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think we're finally getting a lot more variety with women's health issues and ways that we can track things. It's not just like, your monthly cycle. There's a lot of other things involved that women have to deal with, and having these kinds of features that not just have you track, 30 days or 31 days, but actually give you some advice on during certain weeks and certain times of that year. And, just eating habits, exercising habits. These are all things that
sleep tracking they don't do yet.
Sleep tracking would be great too. I'm still on the fence about like, I don't think that because in order to really get like decent sleep tracking, you have to wear a device to sleep.
Yep.
And I don't think Apple has created a hardware device that you can wear while you sleep. There are some that exist. I think it's the Motive ring that
you just wear your Apple Watch, and then if you accidentally hit your significant other, it does more damage. I mean, like it's bonuses all around.
It's great, great for everyone. So I think Apple will actually hold off on sleep tracking until they can create a hardware.
You yawn and you watch punch yourself in the lips. I mean, it's
it's no big deal.
No. Little concussion between you and your watch.
Yeah. Well, Renee, we've come to the hour. I've had a great
only for now.
Only for now. Yep. We have another week coming up that we'll have lots of wonderful things to talk about. In fact, next week, depending on the time of the day, I should hopefully have my Powerbeats Pro in my ears, and we can do a last minute review, hands-on of it, and tell everybody how it works and what they think. So because it pre-ordered today, May 3rd. Yep. Obviously you're probably not listening today, May 3rd, but it pre-ordered for the model only. The ivory, moss, and navy colors are supposed to be out later this summer. But if you want black, you can pre-order today. By the time I woke up, it had already slipped a couple of days. So if you want them, order them now. So if you want to try to get them the day that they come out, or you can walk down to your local Apple store and get them that way. I also haven't checked the Beats website and to see what their projected delivery date is changed to. So I don't, that might still be day of and not a couple of days behind. But if you want them, you can pre-order them.
Go get them. Go get them.
Well, I would like Renee for us to close this out.
All right, you want me to close that? Thank you so much for joining us. You are all the absolute smartest, nicest, wisest, canniest, best looking, best smelling, room filling, laughing, loving people community in the whole darn world. And we're so thrilled that you choose to spend this hour with us every week. Lori Gill, if people want to follow you on the socials or the Webbles, where can they go?
They can find me at Appaholic on Twitter. That's APPAHOLIK. And they can find me at Lori Gill at most of the other social things. And I am writing all about all things Apple on iMore.
Awesome. Awesome. If Georgia were here, she would say you could find her no longer at Georgia_Dow. She's not big on the socials anymore, but you can still go to anxiety-videos.com and she will help you deal with modern life the way only she can help you deal with it. Micah Sargent is at Micah Sargent, and Chihuahua, is it chihuahua.coffee or coffee.chihuahua? I think it's chihuahua.coffee.
Coffee.
You should get both, though, just to avoid any confusion. Micah, if you're listening to when you're listening to this, double down on those domains. And you can check me out at Renee Ritchie, imore.com/vector, or just go to YouTube/vector show and watch some of the funny videos we do every day. Thank you all so much for watching. And thank you for being here, Lori Gill.
And thank you, Jim Metzendorf, for all of the things you do to make us sound like princes.
He's the best.
He really is.
Yep.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.